Good morning, my friend. Hello, Malcolm
Good,
Nance.
good morning, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm trying not to burst into tears as I did when
Welcome,
yeah.
welcome to the club.
Uh,
Oh,
honey, I don't know what to, obviously we've texted and all that, but I don't know what else to say except just that we love you, and I know you've seen how much people all over the country love you and are so grateful to you and your wife. That is what patriotism is. And a lot of people did not even know you were fighting this fight with your wife's illness, and you just you've been in there. Trying to warn America what's happening. And as you described her, she was a patriot and a proud Navy wife, and a wonderful. I'm so glad that I got to meet her. By the way, and so many people that were here at the Resistance dinner party that met her said that she was just an amazing spirit.
Well, and that's a good memory because, as you recall, when I first started here on your show, you were calling yourself Mrs. Nance, and
I knew she was a
then
woman of great patience back then.
I know, but she got quite a laugh out of that. She loved that. And then we came to the dinner with Maxine Waters, and she comes through the gate of your house, and you go, "Oh, it's the real Mrs. Nance," and you two hit it off really great. And so I remember at the end, she was just like, "You can be the alternate Mrs. Nance, alternate
oh,
Mrs. Nance."
Travis says I was the stunt Mrs. Nance for Hollywood events.
That's true.
I was her,
Actually,
once upon a
true.
in Stephaniewood.
I was her
Yeah.
stunt double.
she got
Any
she got quite a kick when we went to Grumman's Chinese Theater for that opening of When Harry Met Sally. And she
Mm.
goes, "Oh, you took the alternate."
Oh, Malcolm. Well, we had a lot in common in that we both love and adore you. And she, that part of your tweet, you said, "My proud Navy wife and the one great love of my life." And I just, I was talking about, not to overshare about, but I know that Martin Sheen has, and his wife Janet are such huge fans of yours. And I know how much, I told him how much it meant to them that Martin sent you a rosary when you've been going through this whole struggle and, obviously praying for Maurice. And so I know that people always think, oh, there's nothing you can say. It does mean a
But
lot to you, doesn't it? I mean, the
it
people that,
it
yeah.
it does, and in fact, let me tell you a little bit for the audience about Martin Sheen. I have never met anyone as close to saintliness as Martin Sheen and maybe Kazir Khan, of the Pocket Constitution fame.
Yeah.
Two of now the night. Martin is the most softest spoken person. He is like President Jedediah Bartlett, only 1,000 times nicer. And his the people jokingly call him Saint Martin of Malibu, and and he really is.
Yeah.
I mean, I would nominate him for beatification if because he's such a wonderful soul, and his wife Janet have been generous and grateful
Yeah.
to me. And when they found out a year or so ago that Maurice had been struggling with cancer, he said, "Listen, I have a convent of nuns that send me rosaries. Can I send Maurice some rosaries?" And he did, and Maurice had them at the end. But nice people come from all walks of life and many different religious faiths. And in fact, almost every other day, a Buddhist monk would come to the room and say a blessing because we had traveled all over Nepal and Bhutan and prayed in Buddhist temples. So
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed at the outpouring of sympathy, and I have been dealing with this struggle with Mary's for 3 years.
Yeah.
To a new job. It leads me to a new role as, a spokesman for ovarian cancer awareness.
Mhm.
And let me tell you something, ladies, when you go to your OBGYN, have them really physically check because my wife, it turns out, had a tumor that had been growing for over 2 years,
Oh boy.
and it was easily, feelable, palpable to a OBGYN that was looking for it, and they didn't. And so she started her struggle at almost stage 4 cancer.
Oh boy.
And it's very hard to go from there. But she had a great life. She's, oh my God, she's one of the funniest people you would ever meet.
I
And
know.
she had a huge, huge, funny French accent. And the most amazing thing is
She
when
was perfect for the resistance. She's
right,
Vive la
oh yeah,
resistance, Maurice. Oh,
she always
je
laughed
t'aime.
when you played that. The Marseillaise. She always got a big laugh out of that. But the funniest part was when she would use the word focus, because she would say, "I want you to focus."
Oh, all right,
Oh,
all
well,
right. We can. We
yeah,
gotta
we
dump
need to.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
dump
don't
that.
even have to beat that.
No,
It's
we
Well,
no. We
yeah,
had
we-
to dump. We had to dump that.
yeah.
Okay,
It
I
sounded
get.
too close
We
to
get
the
it.
thing.
Wow, Malcolm Nance is back, ladies and gentlemen. When he's back, he's back.
But I want to thank everyone in the audience who went on Twitter and liked. She has like 91,000 likes and 37,000 comments of condolence. And I haven't had a minute to look at it because I'm on Twitter blackout until later today. I'm going to put out where you can make donations or send flowers, preferably donations to the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition at ovarian.org. And they don't know it yet, but I think I'm about to become their national spokesman.
Wow.
So,
I have to tell you, I have confessed on the air, I haven't been to a doctor in a while, and this motivated me and I hope it motivates and saves a lot of people's lives. That you just for whatever everybody's reasons, right? And I thought, boy, I got to get to the gyno, and as you say, Malcolm, it's sometimes it's not as what's the word? I mean, they say ovarian is the hardest one to detect, but you're right, like.
right.
It could have been, and it just anyway. I wanted to say too, like when we had breakfast with the Sheens. I mean, they really, you and Martin remind me of each other because you're just so deeply patriotic, and just so you know, they want a mailing address. I was like, I'm not going to call Malcolm today, but we'll get him because Martin wants to write a real handwritten note because that's how he rolls. But but we need more. But you're right about Martin and about you. It's just people that care so deeply about this country, but also are reaching out and trying to help each other in this resistance. I think that's so important, don't you?
Well, let me tell you something. Maryse, even though she had this ginormous French accent and was raised in Montreal, was actually born in West Lafayette, Indiana. So she was an American citizen. And it made for hilarious times at customs when she would say, I am born in America. And they were like, yeah, let's see the green card.
They're like, whatever, Mrs. Pepe Le Pew. Okay.
That's correct.
See your papers.
But she was a fierce patriot. I mean, she and I, came together in this universe. She was a landscape architect and I was a spy. And the funny thing is, I actually brought her into my business. And if you go to the International Spy Museum, there's an auditorium, and the center two seats, there's a memorial plaque to her that I did over a year ago that says, her name and a spy's loving wife. And that is pretty much how she summed it all up. She was a brilliant engineer in her own right. She built islands out of the ocean. And if you look at where the new Louvre and the new Guggenheim are in Abu Dhabi, she built that whole island, everything except the buildings. And then, I brought her up to Iraq, so to use those skills.
You old romantic.
Yeah.
And it was romantic because when she would dress in a hijab, everyone thought she was Turkish because she was just light skinned. And they were like, what's that Turk doing with those armed Americans? And she could literally go under the radar in places that I couldn't. But, but more importantly is that I have the memory that she's now, with my wonderful ma, who raised 7 men who were in the Navy, 7 people simultaneously. And more importantly, my grandma on my father's side, who no one knew anything about for 70 years. She was lost to history. And I found her information. I found her death certificate on Ancestry.com in Cincinnati. And it turns out that in 1938, she died at age 28 of ovarian cancer. And so she and Maryse are all having a coffee right now.
Aww.
Hopefully talking about how I used all of my intelligence skills to find her grave. And it is really my greatest pleasure that I can celebrate my wife here on Stephanie Miller's show. And by the way, on my website later today will be a link to where you will be able to watch the entire live stream of the funeral.
Okay.
You will see me and Naveed Jamali in our full dress choker white uniforms with medals and swords.
When is it, Malcolm?
It will be tomorrow
Okay.
in Philadelphia, but the funeral is reserved because it's a small venue. But everyone in America can watch it and learn about how wonderful Maurice was. She was literally love personified.
And what's your website that people can watch it at?
We don't have that yet,
Oh,
but
okay.
I think
Okay. But you'll tweet it out?
I will be tweeting it on Twitter,
Okay.
Instagram, and Facebook later today.
And we'll link to all of it and all
Absolutely.
our stuff. Malcolm, you know, I know you, like you say, you've been a little busy, but there's been such an outpouring of love for you all over the place on Twitter. You know, maybe you're not paying attention, including up through yesterday, this continuing show that is going on, but what so many people said is, oh my God, how did Malcolm, because we all are exhausted. We're exhausted. We are overwhelmed from the amount of criminality and you know, breaking of norms and the Constitution that you loved and risked your life for. Do you have advice for people? Because, you know, because we're friends. You know, I'm dealing with a 96-year-old mom with Alzheimer's and family stress, and we're all dealing with something. How, because people are like, how did Malcolm stay so strong? How was he able to continue this fight for America in the midst of this personal fight? Because we're all in some personal fight. What can you tell people about that?
It's actually easy, because for the last 3 years, I have actually been a full-time caregiver, and discussing national events has been a part-time job for me, sort of a hobby.
Yeah.
And but you know, Maurice was deeply involved. She read all 3 of my books in advance, edited a lot of my work from her hospital bed, and smacked me upside the head when I needed it. So you know, I haven't been on Twitter in the last week, and I have no idea some of these events that are going on, other than the attack on the oil refinery, because someone mentioned it to me yesterday. I highly recommend people take some time off. And it's this moment. If any of you are married or planning to get married or have, you know, want a significant relationship, it's only at this time, when you have a life-threatening crisis which could take a loved one from you or a child away from you, this is the only time you're married. Because I had the power at any given time of stopping her medical care.
Right.
I had the power of, and I did not. Let me tell you, I was a living terror to the to the ICU doctors at the hospital I was in. And I actually read to them, I put the flag over her bed that said, the operating orders of this patient is, don't give up the ship. And daily, I chewed them out like an old Navy chief. But, you know, you have to understand, you must be the advocate for your loved one.
Yeah.
Because doctors, they'll turn off machines in a heartbeat if they think it's too much effort. And as I told them, you don't need the bed, I need my wife. And so you need to understand that this is when you're married and not a minute before.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I hate to make the analogy, but it's what you've been doing for America, right? You know, it's just it's like what we're all trying to do is say that this is, we have to be America's caretaker, and the fact that you've been doing that while you've been doing this on such a, you know, just a deeply personal and painful situation. Malcolm, we just, you know,
one last note.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm unchained now, so I have a bad feeling the White House is not going to like this situation, where I am going to be tempered merely by literally the angel on my shoulder only. So it will be more shouty.
Yeah.
I had a friend once who's a wonderful activist, but I remember she was like, some company did something horrible, and she called them, and she's like, you don't understand. I'm an out-of-work actress, and I've got nothing but time to do this all day long.
That's exactly it.
Let's give a rousing Stephanie Miller show. Vive la résistance! Je t'aime, Maurice Nance. Love you, Malcolm.
I love you all. Thank you.
All right, honey. Talk to you next week.